But yep, there we go. Everything is sorted. So, even I've forgotten kind of where we were. Right. We're in Kinzo's backstory with Beatrice. Back on Nakenjima, long ago. It's like we are like a kind of a pause point in it right now. So, I think what we last covered was the Italians and the Japanese fought, and they all shot each other. Yep. I think we kind of cut off like the middle of that after Kinzo shot and killed his own commanding officer, or whatever role that person would be in. I don't really know military stuff, and I don't really care to. I may not be as skilled as Kinzo, but I do have some familiarity with English. I managed to overhear part of the conversation, and that was enough to convince me that they were not troublesome people. Right, so he brings Beatrice to a doctor in, or I think Okinawa, which turns out to be Nanjo, and that's how they meet. Cough. Of course, if I were to say that the ingot didn't tempt me, that would be a lie. I was much younger then, you see. What happened to her next? I treated her for some time before a messenger from the Ushimura family came and said that she would be moved to Odawara. They took her away. So grandfather didn't come to get her himself? Regardless of how Kinzo explained away the incident on Nakenjima, he probably wouldn't be able to move about freely for some time afterwards. Precisely. Kinzo-san has said that deceiving the military was the greatest challenge of his life. So Beatrice went to Odawara, and then what? I've heard that she hid in one of their unused villas. After all, Kinzo already had a family at that time. It must have been tricky to manage. So leading a double life was business as usual for Kinzo, even before Kuodorian. Whoosh. Whoosh? What are you doing? Is your butt itching? And later on, Beatrice and grandfather continued their happy relationship in the villa from then on? That went over my head as to what Will was trying to do there, but okay. Oh, I see. I think he was... he spun around expecting Leon to pinch his butt again, probably. Right, I see. I've heard that it was a modest, peaceful life. Several years later, they had a child. So, Kuodorian's Beatrice was born. The birth didn't go well. It was truly a sad tale. I don't mean she died. Don't be surprised. Kinzo believed his daughter was Beatrice reborn. You can't neglect the heart. It's possible to reason it out. You're right. My apologies. I don't know how many years Kinzo-san spent with her in Odawara. However, judging by the Kinzo-san we grew to know afterwards, one can tell how deeply he loved her, even if they only had a few years together. I see. Well, that doesn't really quite make sense, because we know that Kuodori and Beatrice survived until she was like maybe teenage years or so. Then she fell off the cliff. Oh, no, hold on. He's talking about... Oh, sorry, he's talking about original Beatrice dying. Right, of course. There we go, that makes more sense. Evening, Lady Green... Oh, is it evening? Yeah, it's 7. It's right outside. Cold as hell, though. I can't go for walks right now. It's gonna be like high 40s for like the next week. It's not even gonna reach 45. I'm thinking 45 is gonna be like my cutoff for going outside, honestly. But we'll see. Okay, so original Beatrice. Beatrice was it Camblioni? Beatrice Boyardi died while giving birth to Kuodori and Beatrice. Got it. Kinzo-san cleverly made use of the submarine's gold to build up a fortune in a flash. Then he made use of his considerable skills in English to make connections with the GHQ, becoming immensely wealthy in a short span of time. There's no need to explain this part to you, Leon-san. Yes, he used that vast wealth, bought Rakenjima, and built the mansion. The remaining relatives in Odawara scoffed at grandfather, thinking it was crazy to buy an entire deserted island. If you could carry tons of gold around in your pocket, Kinzo probably wouldn't have bought Rakenjima. He had the gold somewhere in Rakenjima, built a fortune with the ingots he'd taken out of it, and then bought up the whole treasure island. Exactly. And that started the legend of the Ushimura gold. I'm guessing at who's talking here some of the time. What about the mark of the one-winged eagle that was supposedly pressed into the ingots? One-winged eagle, or more precisely, an eagle of which only one wing is visible. What do you mean? You see it often in Europe, do you not? A crest or coat of arms with an eagle spreading its wings on it. The flag of the Cello Republic also had an eagle, or was it a hawk? At any rate, it had some bird of that type emblazoned on it. So the imprint was made too lightly, or else it was poorly done. Correct. They used a rough wartime press. It was probably supposed to look like the crest of an eagle spreading its wings. It was pressed in at a slight slant, so half of it was too late to see. So half the eagle spreading its wings disappeared, making it look like a one-winged eagle? So the entire seal was just coincidence. The family crest is a coincidence. Oops. Kinzo thought that the seal on the gold of Beatrice, the woman who had changed his fate, looked like a one-winged eagle. That must be why he decided to make that his own crest. If the imprint had been made correctly, it would have been the eagle of the Cello Republic's flag. Or could it have been the two-headed... No, of course not. Passing the night away with Kinzo-san in front of that massive pile of gold, drinking and wondering, was truly an enjoyable experience. However, Kinzo-san didn't want people using that seal to figure out where the gold had come from. The gold he took outside was all repressed with the one-winged eagle design he had created. And all he did was show you the gold? What a cheapskate. Of course, after he became immensely rich, Kinzo-san came to me once more, saying that he'd pay me in full for the overdue medical expenses. The amount he came with was a bit much for medical fees, though I did make sure to give him his change. And you've been friends ever since? Yes. Kinzo-san was extremely grateful to me for keeping a secret and concealing Beatrice. Grandfather always says that the old relatives in Otawara were a bunch of greedy liars. I'm sure he appreciated your strong sense of duty, Dr. Nanjo. I think I understand why a person like Grandfather came to trust you. I also had some interest in foreign countries, as well as a hobby of playing chess. Kinzo-san and I have gotten along well ever since. It was a friendship that built up gradually but grew strong before we knew it. Yes, we've been friends a very long time. I think Kinzo's still in the room here, or at least he was a bit ago. Not sure. Chapstick. Ugh. People who deal with large amounts of money tend to be quite mindful of small amounts as well. When he refused to accept anything more than the medical fees, that must have earned you his admiration. Ridiculous. I was just frightened by the large quantity of the money. I began to regret it later. It seems I've never had real guts. No need to worry there. Guts are one thing you've got no shortage of. You think so? Oh, I appreciate the flattery. That wasn't flattery. Is he calling him fat? Will, come on. When are you gonna be an asshole like that? I love Dr. Nanjo. For at least one whole year after Kinzo's death, Nanjo had taken part in hiding the secret of that death. Oh, he's talking about this, right. So this hasn't happened yet in this universe, I guess, but everywhere else it does. Oh, hey. Evening, Izu. Where is she here? Alright, I found her. She can be... I can't put her there because she'll be in front of chat, and I don't want to change the layers. So over here should work. I don't think Real is here for MatPat tonight. I'm streaming too early for him. He might show up at the tail end if I keep going, though. Of course, Natsu must have given him some hush money. Still, there could be no doubt that he'd had enough guts to withstand pressure from Kinzo's children for a long time, without slipping up once. Oh yeah, for me it's PM. Now that's something to take real guts. That sense of duty must be part of your personality. Perhaps that is my only redeeming quality. I think Grandfather was blessed with a good friend. Not your backstory. That's surprising but nice to get, right? He's one of the few characters who doesn't really get much spotlight in the early novels. Like Goda, Genji, Nanjo. Kumasawa too. Kumasawa never gets much at all. I think I've learned just how much the woman called Beatrice influenced Grandfather's life. We haven't learned anything. Who killed Beatrice? Unless we figure that out, we'll never be able to get out of here. You're right. We need to finish this quickly. The funeral's already over, after all. You've got it all wrong. This is the funeral. You mean what she's making us do? All the Beatrices we've heard about so far weren't killed at all. We're trying to understand where the word killed factors in. That's the real funeral as far as Bernkastel's concerned. No one knows about her being killed. And that's the truth we're trying to expose? You're pretty sharp, aren't you? It hardly feels like I'm talking to a piece from the lower plane. So this is why I was given you as my Watson. Ouch. Don't call your partner a piece. So what next, Willard Holmes? Step 1 of holding an investigation is questioning witnesses, of course. There's still Beatrice we need to ask about. To indicate whom they should talk to next, Will nodded in the direction of George, Jessica, and Maria. Maria seemed to be lecturing the others about something. Wow, Beatrice sounds pretty incredible. Yeah. And then, inside an upside-down cup, she made tons of candies appear out of nowhere. Inside the overturned cup? Amazing. Sounds like magic to me. Maria-chan really does love witches and magic. We could hardly avoid consulting our local authority on witches. And looking for someone to ask about Beatrice, Maria rose to the top of the list. The Beatrice she spoke of wasn't the real Beatrice, the one Kinzo and the others had talked about. However, here and now, on the Rakenji of 1986, the name Beatrice probably refers to the person Maria is always talking about. I don't see Battler anywhere. Ushidamiya Battler, the one who was forced to fight as Beatrice's opponent in many games, and the most important in this game, this tale. Battler in this world would probably be the peace version, but even so, it should be possible to get some vital information out of him. Will probably wanted to talk with Battler too, but he was nowhere to be seen in the cousins group. Battler did not attend this funeral. It's a shame, seeing as he's the cousin closest in age to me. Are you two on good terms? Yes, of course. And you pinch his butt every time he says something perverted? Oh, how did you know? Did your detective instincts tell you that? Poor guy. Why so ne? Bernkastel said that everything we needed was gathered here. Since Battler isn't here, that probably means it's possible to find out everything without asking for his side of the story. Or maybe she's intentionally hiding the core elements and making us take the long way around, as part of some fickle witch's game. Since he isn't here, that probably means there's no need to hear his story for the time being. Let's talk to Maria and the others. I won't say anything perverted, so keep your hands off my ass. Then why not try choosing your words a bit more carefully? With a roguish smile, Leon pinched the air, index finger against middle. Ah, it's our successor, Sama. Are you done babysitting the old geezer? Yeah? Wow. Yeah, at least Leon was impartial. No mercy even for Jessica. Bill felt a bit gratified. I see. Since you're the successor from Krass's child, then Jessica is your little sister. He was so used to Jessica being an only child that, though the scuffle between the two looked perfectly natural, something didn't feel quite right about it. Jessica, can't you talk a little more like a little sister's supposed to? And while we're at it, why not try talking more like a girl your age? How many times do I have to tell you to stop calling me successor-sama? Shut up! I'll live the way I want to. I'd suffocate if I had to act all refined like you, successor-sama. Eep! Ouch! Ow! Stop it! Don't pinch me! This is a little sister of yours. Pervert! Stop it! Ow! Jessica, why are you talking like that in front of a guest? Do you want Mother to scold you again? She already has her sister to scold her. There is no need for Mother. Looks like those two are close in their own special way. Well, Leon is an excellent person to be the successor without any faults. I guess I understand how Jessica-chan feels. Leon might be a bit too perfect sometimes. She gets compared to Leon no matter what she does. And that made her rebel? If Jessica-chan had been born an only child, I'm sure she would have become a composed, quiet young lady. Nope. Ah, that's an interesting thought. Don't worry. That wouldn't be enough to change her personality. George and Ichan, who is this person? This is the first time we've met, right? But you seem to know a lot about our family. I'm George and this here is Maria. Pleased to meet you. Call me Will. I'm investigating Beatrice. Please tell me what you know. Beatrice? Ooh, see? Beatrice exists. Ooh. Then Maria had looked hostile towards this unfamiliar man. As soon as she heard the name of the witch she loved pass his lips, her eyes began to sparkle. Hey, Maria-chan. You've got to greet our guest properly. Hello, my name is Ushidamiya Maria. Ooh, I'm glad to meet someone who knows Beatrice. Handshake. Ooh. Mario suddenly stuck out a small hand, and Will reached for it reflexively. What is this moment they're sharing? As soon as he did, he felt a bright light seeping out from the gap between their hands. The theater-going power that Burn Castell had given him had affected Mario. Beatrice is the witch of Rakanjima. She plays with me every time I come here. She's my best friend and a fellow member of marriage sorcery. Ooh! The light grew brighter and brighter. This time he could feel himself being drawn into Mario's world. Oh, what a world it must be. I'm Ushida Miyamaria. My mama is Rosa. My papa? I don't have a papa. I think I remember Mama showing me a picture long ago and saying, "This is your papa." It was a picture of a man with a dark suntan on a beach wearing a swimsuit. Later on, when I learned what papa meant, I asked Mama to show me that picture again, but she said it didn't exist. But it had to have existed. When I drew a picture of it and showed it to Mama, she got really mad and said it didn't exist. Or that, if it did, she'd already thrown it away. Ever since then, she kept saying that I didn't have a papa. Did you know? People say you need a papa and a mama to have a baby, but that's a lie. Virgin birth, is it? Behold, a virgin shall be with child, and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel. If I was a boy, that might have been my name. Book of Matthew, chapter 1, verse 20. No, verse 23. Verse 20 is, "But while he thought on these things, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a dream, saying, Joseph, thou son of David, fear not to take unto thee Mary thy wife, for that which is conceived in her is of the Holy Ghost." So he fathers the Holy Ghost. Everyone said that everyone has a papa. They said it was strange to not have a papa, that I was a weird, pitiful child. But when I asked Mama, she said that I didn't have a papa, that he didn't exist. She got mad and hit me even though all I did was ask. So, I didn't really understand who gave birth to me. I was an immature and misplaced creature, not a proper human. I realized it was a strange, pitiful girl, different from everyone else. It doesn't matter who your parents are or what other people say. You are who you are. It must have been hard to teach that to a young, immature kid. My kindergarten teacher might have said that to me when I cried after being bullied. But even those words of encouragement couldn't fill the blank space. No, the questions. Those words couldn't answer the questions in my mind. And the book is what gave you the answers. A priest came to see me. It was probably part of some lesson to enrich the minds of children through an edifying tale. To most of the children, it was just an ordinary fairy tale they might have heard from one of their teachers. Actually, I think we were just bored because it was too hard to grasp. Then at the end, the priest said something important. That God knows everything? Yep. So I asked him. I only have a mama. I don't have a papa. Mama gave birth to me without a papa. Was that a strange, sad thing? I asked. The priest taught me. There's nothing strange about a child having no papa. After all, Jesus Christ was born of a virgin. And the one who gave birth to him was the Virgin Maria? Close. I was surprised. Maria, the name I was given, had been showing me the answer all along. Close enough. Maria has like, which kanji is I forget which kanji it is in her name, but one of the kanji is very similar to a cross as well. All of them have weird names that aren't typical Japanese names, of course, so they're going to be written strangely. I can actually pull it up, I guess, huh? Couldn't I? Let's see here. Oh, it's right here. So, oh, sorry, you can't see my mouse, but skip the first 3 characters here, and look at the 3 complicated-looking ones. So, those are the kanji here. So, it obviously... I actually don't know what it means offhand. I wonder. I was kind of hoping it would just come up in the IME, but it might not. Okay, I think it's just an alternate way of writing another kanji. But yeah, so it doesn't mean anything like special at all. The dictionary says rank or follow, but it's not really used for its meaning in anything. It's just used as an ateji. So it's just used for its reading. It's just an arbitrary one. But I'm sure that Ryukishi 7 definitely meant something when he put it in here, considering it is like the most cross-looking kanji in Japanese, I think. Anyway. I was so shocked I asked the priest to say it again. He said that the Virgin Maria gave birth to a baby by herself. So I asked him if that meant I could give birth to a baby all by myself too. Which of origins? And how do you answer that? He said the Virgin Maria was with child because of the Holy Ghost. The second part of the book of Matthew, chapter 1, verse 20. For that which is conceived in her is of the Holy Ghost. That surprised me again. What do you think that means? You interpreted this to mean that Ushidmiya Maria had no human father, that your real father was the Holy Ghost. Regardless of the Bible's original meaning, this young, sad girl whose lack of a father had caused her to lose her sense of identity had finally created a way to understand herself. Once I realized that, I knew why I was different from all the other kids. The ones who made fun of me were all children of Joseph. But I alone was different. I wasn't worse than anyone else. I was a child of God, a child of the Holy Ghost. When I got back, I told Mama. I had no papa. Mama gave birth to me thanks to the power of God. It was probably painful for Rosa when Maria asked about her father. Why did Maria have no papa when everyone else had a papa and a mama? Every time she was asked this, Rosa flew into a rage and changed the subject. Then, for some reason, and all on her own, Maria had found an answer that satisfied her. She had no papa. She was the child of Mama and God. It isn't too difficult to imagine that Rosa, after hearing this young girl's explanation, might go along with it as though it were true. Beato said that the minimum number of people needed to create a world is 2. I thought she meant that you need 2 parents to create a child. That's when I thought of it. Beato may be a witch, but she's a witch born of a human. Beato isn't a child of the Holy Ghost. But I'm different. I was born from Mama alone. I was born of the Holy Ghost. Beato can't create a universe without me. But God is always by your side. I can make a universe all by myself, along with the Holy Ghost. Beato called me the Witch of Origins, and she also said that eventually I might become a creator who could create anything alone. All by myself, I can create something out of nothing. Beato can take that and extend it to infinity. Beato can take that and shove it. Is how I read that in my head. Angie was the witch's apostle who would spread the word far and wide. And that was marriage sorcery. There's a huge difference between 1 and infinity. That's why Beato is so great. However, compared to the difference between existence and non-existence, 1 and infinity are nearly the same thing. So again, Will's theater-going power essentially means that, like, we're seeing Maria's internal, like, true thoughts. I'm pretty sure here. So we see, like, a more candid view of Maria, with her thoughts organized as well, like, essentially ready to go. You can essentially read her like a book, like that one stand in JoJo Part 4 can. Pretty much. Yeah, just pretend that Will is... what's his face? Mr. Manga Artist guy. I'm the child destined to become the best witch. No, the greatest creator in the world. Marriage sorcery was the nest to prepare me for that. Kishibe Rohan. Yes, thank you. Kishibe Rohan. I am Ushidmiya Maria. Maria who stands by God's side. I know about the magic circles and stuff though, Maria. I feel like that's... I can't tell if she's, like, religious or if she just doesn't quite understand. I think she doesn't quite understand. I think she's not a Christian per se. I don't think. It's just she feels a connection to, like, the little that she knows about God because of her backstory that she's kind of, like, assigned to herself, I guess. So she doesn't have any kind of resistance in, like, scorpion charms and magic circles and stuff. She's still into that. So it's kind of a weird mixture, huh? If we liken Maria's sense of identity to a universe, then this endless stream of words coming from her might be like the Big Bang. She spent so long tormented over how to interpret her lack of a father. Then by chance, she saw a line in the Bible that looked like it secretly referred to her, and she finally formed an understanding for herself. The sad girl, who had hated herself for being different from all of her classmates, finally found a meaning for her existence. At that moment, Maria's universe, which had once been nothingness, was born as a clump of ultra-hot, ultra-high-pressured energy. Then later on, she went to Rakenjima, met the endless witch who called herself Beatrice, and the clump of energy exploded in a big bang, giving birth to the magical compendium. That was the universe known as marriage sorcery. I can't do French. Comment, sorry. We're jumping about a bit too fast. Let's take things one at a time. Sure. Where do you want to start? After you decided that you were the child of the Holy Ghost, it is easy to imagine that you gradually became more and more interested in the occult. And then what? Once you reached that state, where did you meet Beatrice, and how did the two of you interact? It really did happen all of a sudden one day. I wanted to meet the witch called Beatrice who lived in Arkanjima. I wanted to meet her as a fellow witch. At that time, you already knew you were a witch? I did. Even then, when it came to the Bible and the occult, I already knew as much as an adult. I'd say as much as most... Well, like, I'd say more than most adults, no. So, even though I couldn't use magic, I believed that I was a witch. Hehehe, it's a bit funny, isn't it? That's why I was only a witch apprentice. When did you meet Beatrice? I don't really remember when, but I do remember what it was like. It was really, really sudden. Huh? So, you are Ushirimiya Maria, I presume. It was so very sudden. I was just drinking some milk tea all alone in the Rose Garden Arbor. Mama said she had to talk about something important with Uncle Kraus, so she told me to go outside and play. Suddenly, she was sitting right there. I didn't know anyone who spoke that way. I quickly realized that she was someone I didn't know at all. Now keep in mind, I think Will's theater-going powder means that we're... His power that Bernkastel gave him means that we're seeing an objective truth here. I think so. Unless it comes up later, I would assume as much. So we're seeing Beatrice here. We're seeing, like, physical Beatrice. Or someone who appears to be physical Beatrice. Who are you? You're the one who wanted us to meet. Here I am, welcoming the witch who came to visit my island, and yet you ask my name. Beatrice. Precisely. I am Beatrice. Yeah, that is pretty sudden. Yep, really, really sudden. There are witches and spirits right next to us all the time. They just choose not to show themselves. And when they do show themselves, it's always sudden, as though they've been there the whole time. That's what I learned that day. And then, you and Beatrice became friends? Yeah. She stayed and chatted with me the whole time until Mama was done with her work. We talked about magic and witches. And about how I was a child of the Holy Ghost. And what was your impression of Beatrice then? I don't like saying it, but my knowledge, at least, was better than hers back then. At first, I thought she wasn't a very good witch. Well, that was just my conceit. There are so many different kinds of magical compendiums. Plus, mine was based on self-study. I probably only viewed Beato that way, because her magical compendium was different from mine. It wasn't long before I came to regret that and apologized. Apologized? Did Beatrice do something to win your respect? I see. So she showed you magic. We moved to the beach and talked lots, sitting at a table under an umbrella. Very interesting. Maria, I see you have been quite diligent in your studies. At your age, to be capable of teaching a 1,000-year-old witch such as myself is truly an accomplishment worthy of admiration. So, what sort of magic can you use? Magic? If you call yourself a witch, you must be able to show me some sort of magic, correct? I was stunned for a second. Of course, that should have been obvious. I was a child of the Holy Ghost, and since I'd studied so much of the occult, I was also a witch, not a human. Until that day, I'd been so sure of both of these things. So when I was asked what sort of magic I could use, it left me in a daze. When one knows of magic and can speak of it, they finally reach the rank of apprentice. One is only a witch if they can put such knowledge into practice and use magic, correct? So, I'm not a witch yet? You have studied well, and I can sense a very rare talent within you. One day, you may become a witch so great that even I could not compare. Or perhaps even a creator, as you have told me. However, you are still young and immature. You are, yes, you are an apprentice. A witch apprentice, you might call it. So does that mean you can use magic, Beato? Of course. I could not call myself a witch otherwise. Incredible. Show me. I want to see your magic. His Beatrice prepared for this. Until this day, Maria had never doubted the magic-themed idea that she was the child of the Holy Ghost. However, no one had ever proven to her that occult phenomena actually existed. Maria could create a universe all by herself. However, she wanted to share it with a second person, so that she could believe in it even more strongly. Once, I could have drawn a rainbow in the sky, transformed it into 7 colors of candy, and eat them at my leisure. However, my power is weakened so much that I cannot even preserve my form to my satisfaction. You told me about that. I can't use your full power because of the shrine. It will take quite some time before my power returns. At this moment, I cannot turn rainbows to candy. However, perhaps I can show you a bit of that power with some simpler magic. I want to see your magic. Very well. However, I must ask for your assistance. As I've already told you, no matter how pure your soul might be, all humans are tainted and filled with a toxin that resists magic. Yeah, I remember. You told me about the anti-magic toxin. It wasn't in any of the books I've read. You must really be incredible to know so much. Or she's bullshitting. Beatrice lifted up an empty teacup, then turned it around in front of Mario to show that there weren't any tricks or strings. Interesting that this concept comes from Beatrice. This isn't something we've ever really heard anyone else say, unless they've heard it from Beatrice, I don't think. Right, the magic to make candy appear inside an overturned cup. How did you know? You're incredible, Will. You even know about witch magic. It's the most basic sort of witch magic, after all. But I don't think he's gonna do the Erica thing where he, you know, presses her statement. It was just a normal cup without any tricks in it. I wanted to see true magic. Will's not a bad person like Erica. There was a thing Maria desired. To strengthen her belief that there was an occult side to her, she wanted to see the occult outside herself as well. That's why she agreed to help Beatrice with her magic. She didn't want her own toxin to ruin her chance of learning the miracles of magic. Good. Then try looking inside that cup. Huh? There's candy. There's candy! As a gift to mark my meeting with a new witch, and as a sign of our friendship, I offer this to you. One Jolly Rancher. For Maria. This was a true miracle of magic. For the first time, I felt shame and embarrassment at my conceit. I could feel this sense of omnipotence disappear. The idea that I was the child of the Holy Ghost and the most important and special person in the world. Instead of a child of the Holy Ghost who can't actually do anything, I'd rather be a witch who can use magic. Ushimi Mario wants to become a witch, starting off as a witch apprentice. I was already fascinated by Beato. I want to become a real witch too. I want to be your disciple. How modest. You already have an abundance of talent and diligence. Also, though it may have been different when I was at my full power, I cannot take on a disciple in my current state. So I can't become a witch's disciple? Correct. You cannot become my disciple. However, you can become my friend. Really? Indeed. From this point forth, we shall be friends. Let us continue to discuss the deep and profound world of witches. Ooh, thank you, Beato. Can I eat this candy? No, let that be a souvenir. Instead of eating it, keep it in that adorable bag of yours. Okay, I'll eat it at home. Ooh. Maria, that candy was brought into being by magic. Therefore, it is fragile. If you deny my existence with that toxin of yours, it will melt and fade away. Ooh, no, I don't want Beato's precious magic to disappear. Then be sure that you do not forget your meeting with me. As long as you keep a little promise with me, I shall be here to greet you when you return to this island. Ooh, I'll keep it. What's the promise? Well, at the start, when you get home, wash your hands. Then rinse out your mouth. You must not complain about this, for it is an important part of a witch apprentice's training. I'll do it. Every day, when I come home, I'll wash my hands. I'll rinse out my mouth. If I do that, will I see you again? I promise it. If you keep your end of the promise, your body will be cleansed, and it will regain even more of my magical power. If that happens, I will show you even more incredible magic the next time you come. Ooh, I'll keep my promise, no matter what. I'll do it. I'll become your friend and a witch apprentice. Your resolve is heartening. Ushiro Miyamara. I hope you will grow to become a full witch and my close friend soon. Aw. Beatrice is trying to make her into a well-behaved child. I think that was the first time I met Beatrice. And was that candy still there when you got home? Yep. But I doubted a little, so it was all melty. I regretted almost doubting her. If I doubted her more, the candy would have disappeared completely. I almost lost the proof of the magical miracle that had happened before my eyes. A piece of candy melted? I think it was more of a caramel than a normal candy. It was all lumpy, just starting to melt. About what time of the year did this happen? I'm not too sure, but I remember that the milk tea had ice in it. Why does that matter? The Does she not understand how... okay, I guess maybe thermodynamics are a bit tough for a kid, but I think you understand that thing melt when hot, sun out. I don't know. Maybe not. She was very young after all. Never mind. Did you tell Rose about your meeting with Beatrice? Yep. I told everyone about it at dinner that day. Uncle Kraus laughed at me. Then Mama, who was sitting next to me, got mad and told me to stop talking about it. Ooh. Next to you? By your family's ranking system, your seat shouldn't be next to Rose's. It wasn't a family conference. It was just when Mama and I came to visit. So there was only Uncle Kraus's family, Mama, and me. There were fewer people, so we didn't sit in the same spots as a family conference. And Rosa was sitting in the seat next to you? Yeah. Why does that matter? It doesn't. Have you ever met with Beatrice outside of Arkanjima? No. After all, Beatrice's body is fragile, so she can't go wherever she wants. I said I wouldn't mind letting her possess me, but she said she couldn't, because she couldn't leave the island. And after that, you met her every time you came to Arkanjima. Yeah, we became really good friends. The more I talked to Beato, the more I realized what an amazing witch she was. She showed me wonderful magic every time I saw her. Then she told me about a magical compendium that was different from mine, and we both talked together about the mysteries of magic. I wanted to reach her level as soon as I could. I wanted to become the kind of witch Beato was. Did you ever introduce Beato to your mother? Beatrice. Nope. She said Mama's toxin was too strong, so they couldn't meet each other yet. Almost all adults are no good when it comes to the toxin, because they're all tainted. Hehehe. Was anyone other than you able to see Beatrice? They couldn't at first. She said her magical power was weak, so her body would crumble if even a little bit of the toxin reached her. But she gathered magical power bit by bit, and she could eventually appear in front of other people who had small amounts of toxin. And who was that? There weren't many of them. Just a few of the servants. Specifically, all the servants here today. Ooh? But not Goda-san, I think. So there were 4 of them. Genji, Shannon, Kanon, and Kurosawa. And Dr. Nanjo too. Apparently they would sometimes come to visit Maria and Beatrice's witch tea parties. Of course, they'd only come by for minor things like bringing some more tea. However, they were certainly aware of Beatrice and even talked with her. So, interesting. So when the servants mentioned before they talked to Beatrice, maybe they were telling the truth. But what does that really mean? How did the servants react to Beatrice? She was a guest who shouldn't have existed. Weren't they surprised? Of course not. After all, Beatrice is the other master of the mansion. She said that the servants treated Beatrice as an honored guest. And sometimes they were permitted to witness new miracles of magic along with Maria. So, on Arkanjima of 1986, the ones who could actually meet with Beatrice were you, Nanjo, and the 4 servants excluding Goda. For a total of 6? Yeah. Beatrice said she'd need to store much more magical power before she could appear in front of anyone else. So she intended to show herself in front of more people sometime in the future. Yep, she said the day she made all the humans acknowledge her would be the day of her resurrection. Will's starting to kind of put gears together in his head. He's thinking. Maria, the servants, and Nanjo had acknowledged her. She'd probably appeared before new humans one by one, starting with those whose anti-magic toxin was weakest. Beatrice's game was to increase the number of humans who could recognize her, until she could make everyone on the island acknowledge her. Of that, there can be no doubt. In that case, the last person Beatrice needed to appear in front of would be Battler, the one said to have the strongest anti-magical power. Does this mean Beatrice thought Battler would be the hardest to convince? It seems true that Battler was one of Beatrice's goals. However, if we go with that chessboard thinking Battler loves so much, Beatrice is trying to make people acknowledge her existence. Therefore, you might say that she's a character who can't exist unless people acknowledge her. Battler reached this idea himself as soon as the first game. Yes, there's something different about the Beatrice of 1986. She's different from the Italian Beatrice, or the Ecuadorian Beatrice, both of whom certainly did exist. The Beatrice of 1986, the one we're so familiar with in a mysterious way, yet who has no existence. What does it mean to kill this Beatrice who has no existence? The minimum number of people required to create a universe is 2. However, Maria said that even a single person could give birth to a universe. And yet, Maria desired a second person to nurture the world she'd given birth to alone. Because if it was born and not nurtured, it would die and disappear? Let's replace the word universe with Beatrice. The minimum number of people required to create Beatrice is 2. Oh, I love ridiculous stuff like this. However, even a single person could give birth to her. And yet that single person desired a second person. A second person to acknowledge the Beatrice created by the first person. That meeting with the second person is the scene Moria had just described. This single person who created Beatrice looked for a second person to acknowledge Beatrice, and selected Moria. We don't need Furuto Erika's heartless reasoning to know that the teacup magic was a sleight of hand. Moria, believing in the story about the anti-magic toxin, would close her eyes whenever magic happened. Any sleight of hand would be possible while she had her eyes closed. The caramel Moria had been given as proof of her meeting with a witch helped melted a little because Moria had doubted. In a season where one is likely to put ice in the tea, it was only natural for a caramel left in a bag to melt. Uchi and Mia Moria, the girl who is too trusting and will accept the story easily. Beatrice appeared first in front of this girl who had, in the language of witches, very little of the anti-magic toxin. The creation of Beatrice can be thought of as an egg being laid. When a single person creates her, it's a little more than a daydream. She's still inside the egg. If and only if a second person acknowledges her, the shell will crack and she'll appear. She'll only appear if a second person comes to warm the egg. When Moria acknowledged Beatrice, she finally hatched and the chick was born. In that case, marriage sorcery, which nurtured Beatrice in her magical compendium, was like a nest. This is Beatrice, a woman with a dignified presence who calls herself the Witch of Rakenjima, and who claims to have lived 1,000 years. That sounds less like the chick Beato, who appeared in the previous game, and more like Beato the Elder. So, did the meeting Moria has just recounted mark the birth of Beato the Elder? The egg itself had already been created by the first person. Between them and the meeting with Moria, it matured immensely inside its shell into a character with the dignified presence of 1,000 years. Then, when Moria acknowledged it, it hatched, and the Witch of Rakenjima finally gained a form. Perhaps that moment marks the birth of the Beatrice of 1986. The younger chick Beato was born out of love for Valor. Since that birth hasn't yet occurred at this point in time, the birth of Beato the Elder and the existence of Beatrice at this moment must have nothing to do with Valor. Are you enjoying this reasoning, Bren Castell? If you are, let's at least have some applause from the spectators. Great. Thanks a bunch. Probably her way of saying that he's on the right track. I wish for Beato to grant me a lot of things with magic. That's why I'm helping her. I'm helping with her resurrection. What is it you wished for? Lots and lots. Hehehe. Not telling. So you wanted to protect your mama from the Black Witch. How did you know that? You're incredible. Ooh. And you're already sure that you'll never be able to get that world back without a witch's help? Yep. I love Mama. She's so nice. I want to be with her forever. For all eternity. Now I'd like to hear about marriage sorcery. What's wrong? Don't wanna. Huh? I'm thirsty, so I'm gonna go get something to drink. See you later. Okay. Theater going. Failed. Charisma check. Failed. She leaves. Moria suddenly became formal, bowed her head, and left without waiting for a reply. It was a very un-Moria-like thing to do. I see. So the Game Master has moved the piece. Apparently she's telling me to ask about something different. At some point, Leon had started chatting with the other family members. Jessica seemed to be getting irritated at having her butt pinched so much, and George was trying to calm her down. Jessica and George. Guess we'll hear their stories next. Compared to Moria, the anti-magic toxin is very strong with those two. At least, at the beginning of the other games, they didn't acknowledge Beatrice. Moria showed me the point of view of one who believes. Now to hear from those who don't. Well, I don't really know what they're going to be able to tell him, because they presumably have not met Beatrice. But we'll see. I don't remember a lot of the details of Part 7. Maybe I rushed through it or something. I remember a few specific scenes, don't get me wrong. There are a couple really good scenes. But I don't remember a lot of the individual questioning parts like this. Though it is pretty interesting. I apologize for Successor-sama's lack of courtesy back there. It's not going to leave a mark, is it? Talk about merciless. Did you say something, Jessica? Of course not. I've already, learned my lesson, okay? Leon, who had apparently been chatting with the adult siblings, spun around with a smile and stared at Jessica. Looks like the older siblings firmly in control around here. Those are some sharp ears. I think I'm finally getting this Leon person. Yeah. Our successor son has always been weirdly sharp. The adults are always gushing about that kid, and I'm always getting compared to that, both at home and at school. Come to think of it, Leon was the student council president during both middle school and high school. And the head of the badminton team, too. So everywhere you go, you get compared to Leon, and it doesn't match up too well for you. I said it as soon as I got into middle school. Our successor son was already the vice president of the student council. I said, if you're planning to become council president next year, that'll just put more pressure on me, so stop it. But the next year rolls around, and guess who announces their candidacy and wins by a landslide election? Same thing again in high school. I said, please, just give it a rest this time. You're already vice president. But when year 3 rolls around, our successor son gets the council president job again. Dad was oh so proud. Mom just kept saying, hey, make sure you do your best as the little sister, over and over and over again. Yeah. But even so, you were still proud to be Leon's little sister, weren't you? It's not like I ever thought of it that way. Yeah, of course not. Why would I? It can be tough to be compared against perfection. But other people are other people, and you are you. There's no point letting it get you down. Live how you want to, with all you've got, and you'll be fine. Of course. But Mom and the others are always going on about how I need to follow in Ushidami and Leon's footsteps as little sister. They keep telling me to go join the student council, to go play badminton. You don't play in a rock band, do you? What? Shh. That's a secret, okay? Apparently she's keeping a secret from her family. Interesting. People tend to blame things on the family and how they were raised, but this Jessica girl always likes doing the same thing, even in a different world, in a different family. It's admirable that she has such a true and constant interest in something. I loved it. That Petan Petan song. That Dokyun Dokyun song. Wow, shut up. Nothing wrong with the extraordinarily accomplished sort like Leon, but kids who act their age do have their charms. That's the best way to go through life. Enjoy youth to the fullest. Thanks. Apparently no one had ever told Jessica that they approved of how she lived, and the direct way Will had put it made her turn red and hang her head in embarrassment. I want to ask you two now. The same thing you just asked Maria-chan? Yeah. Please tell me everything you know about Beatrice. Well, you can see how much Maria-chan loves witches in the occult. For her, Beatrice is a symbol to be admired like an anime heroine. My chair's too low. Okay, there we go. I felt like super short this whole time. When some trivial thing happens, she believes there's some witch pranking her with magic. You really are an adult. And so is the fact that you'd never say that to Maria. And so is the fact that you'd never say that to Maria, even if you think it. Of course, childhood dreams only happen when you're a kid. And I think respecting that precious experience is an adult's responsibility. Looks like the two of us will get along well. George's position was that Beatrice was nothing more than a fairy tale. However, that phrase, respecting a child's dreams is the adult thing to do, that might be worthy of further scrutiny. When she got candy from Beatrice by magic, Maria probably got excited and told George and the others. Then the adults followed his lead and actively supported that story, as adults should. However, we can conceive of a similar situation coming up besides an adult interacting with a child. For example, what about a subordinate interacting with a superior? If Ginzo, tyrant of the Ushimida family, claimed that Beatrice existed and had revived, perhaps the other members of the family would actively support that story, as his subordinates should. Though Beatrice only appeared directly in front of a limited number of people, it's probably safe to say that the concept of her existence penetrated deeply within the Ushimida family, even among those who had never seen her. However, no matter how deeply that concept penetrated, she was only viewed as a sort of fairy tale character. It would be necessary to transform the concept of that character from an imaginary fairy tale into reality. So a person attempting to do this would need to perform acts that no one could explain without magic. These acts were the witch incidents, starting with the window-opening pranks played by Beato the Elder, ending with the closed-room murders. Beato the Elder talked about this, saying that the anti-magic power filling the mansion would be weakened bit by bit the more she made her existence known. Beatrice, why were you willing to go so far to make everyone besides you accept your existence? Because that fiction will become the truth if everyone acknowledges it? Because at that moment, the being called Beatrice will be acknowledged and will become human? In that case, until Beatrice is acknowledged by all people, she's less than human. She's furniture. Why would furniture want to become human? Beatrice become human. I seem to remember this being a theme in the previous game. It's because they want to gain a right. Furniture cannot... Obviously, that says love. You can pretend it says other things if you want. But it says love. Furniture cannot love, so they try to become human because they want the right to love. It's extremely simple. After all, it's directly connected to the reason Chick Beata was born in the first place. I see. I understand, but it's complicated. Yeah, you can't neglect the heart. I feel bad for saying this at Beatrice's funeral, but truth be told, I don't know enough about this person called Beatrice to tell you much about her. My apologies. Jessica-chan does live here, so she might know a little more than I do. Speaking of which, have you introduced yourself to this gentleman yet, Jessica-chan? Nah, not yet, actually. There's this idiot going around pinching people's butts, so I didn't really have a chance. A bit late, Jessica looked embarrassed for acting rudely in front of an unfamiliar guest. She cleared her throat and made a beautiful bow that didn't fit well with her normal attitude. She even lifted the corners of her skirt in a curtsy. But pleased to meet you. My name is Jessica. Allow me to welcome you to the Umineko family on this splendid day. It's a funeral, Jessica. It's a funeral. Try again. You get another chance. I mean, please enjoy our hospitality. Are you serving snacks at the funeral? And... Willard. Call me Will. Huh? Huh? Well, Jessica's greeting had been of the old-fashioned sort, so Will also treated her like an old-fashioned lady, bending down on one knee, taking Jessica's right hand and kissing it. Wow. Well, not expecting her greetings to be returned in such an old-fashioned and formal way, Jessica turned red and was unable to speak. Will does kind of have that OC do not steal aura about him, but please, don't hate him too much for it. However, Will had returned the greeting in what he thought was a perfectly serious way, so he didn't understand what was making Jessica's face glow. Have I done something strange? No, not at all. I want to hear what you know about Beatrice. A sparkle leaked around the edges of Will's right hand, which was grasping Jessica's hand. It's just an excuse to do the theater-going thing again, really. Looks like the theater-going power is having its effect on Jessica. Didn't mean for that to happen. Oh well. Beatrice, is it? Well, I can tell you, but will you promise me something? Promise you won't laugh. Thinking about it now, it sounds more than a little crazy. What is it you know? I won't laugh. Tell me. Sure. Where should I start? Story time. Tummy time. To me, the Golden Witch Beatrice is sort of like one of the 7 mysteries of the Umineko family. You've heard of those, right? Almost all schools have a set of tall tales or ghost stories that get passed down. Like, on some days, the piano of the music room will start playing by itself, or the skeleton in the science room dances around at night. Everyone's heard of them, but of course that doesn't mean they believe in them. The stories about Beatrice were the same. It was just one of those strange tales about her way too big mansion. The servants would sometimes talk about seeing things during their night patrols. Sometimes I felt a bit annoyed about them turning my home into a place for ghost stories, but I didn't pay any more attention than that. That's how little it mattered to me. So during my normal everyday life, I would completely forget about the name Beatrice. Of course, when that huge portrait was first hung, it definitely felt creepy. Even I tried not to meet her eyes after dark, so it's no surprise that the servants found it eerie. But that only lasted for a short while. We all walked by the portrait every day. We gradually got used to it and eventually bored of it. I didn't really care anymore about the portrait of the mistress from Grandfather's Delusions. I get that. I'll bet it was different for the other relatives who only came a few times a year. Exactly. That's why every time the family came for a family conference, they'd always stand in front of that portrait and talk about Beatrice. So I was reminded of it every now and again. Ooh, Beatrice, I've come to play again. I've written a new spell. Take a look at it later, okay? Ooh. You really do like Beatrice, don't you? You've been in such high spirits ever since Grandfather had this portrait hung. Huh? Where's Angie? She went back with Aunt Kitty to take some medicine. Her body really is frail. Totally the opposite of Battler. She's the sort that gets sick whenever she's stressed. I also used to get sick on big holidays or trips. Maria is really tough by comparison. She's been talking about Beatrice non-stop since we left Nijima. Don't you think she's taking this a bit too far? It's not so bad, right? It's normal for kids to have an active imagination. If a kid told you that she'd met Santa Claus, would you tell her she's a liar? Well, of course I wouldn't go that far. Yeah, Beatrice is just like Santa Claus, but like she's not as popular yet. Give her a few more years, she'll take off, I promise. We're gonna have National Rakenjima Remembrance Day, where we celebrate Beatrice. Maria kept talking to the portrait as though it was an old friend. She promised to play with it later, as if she was talking to a living human. George, a man, seemed to think that this behavior from a younger member of the opposite sex was cute. But to be perfectly frank, Jessica, who is the same sex as Maria, found this behavior a bit unpleasant, even though she realized that she was dealing with a younger girl. At one time, even I was fascinated by anime heroines and other fictional characters. However, Maria's behavior seems to signify something more direct than mere fascination. It's something more definite, more vivid. Am I the only one who notices something odd about her? I'll bet the others all notice too, but try to ignore it, because of that adult dignity George Nissan's always talking about. My apologies, everyone. The head is quite busy with his noble research. He wishes to elodge in his study today. Until a second ago, Kinzo's children had been complaining that eating lunch with their father would give them indigestion. But now that they knew he wasn't coming, they started grumbling about how he should at least spare the time to come down during the annual family conferences. So we're seeing a past conference here. Then let us begin lunch, everyone. I, Goda, have made use of all my talent and experience to make sure that you guests, who have come from so far away, will be entirely satisfied with your meal. No one's stomach would fail to rumble after hearing that from the great Chef Goda. By the time the splendid dishes were laid out, everyone had stopped talking about Kinzo's absence. It was now Angie's absence that was being discussed. Apparently her stomachache had gotten so bad that both she and Kirie couldn't make it to lunch. Poor thing. Goda, make sure you talk to Kirie-san later and have some porridge made. Thanks for the concern. Sorry about all this. It seems she just can't handle much stress. That's how it is with youngins. They're cute, at least when they're not regurgitating. George used to do that all the time. He really was afraid way back then. Right? Let's not talk about the past. It's not exactly a mealtime topic. Ooh, poor Angie. So she won't get to eat this yummy food? Yeah, poor kid. Let's make sure we play with her a lot when she gets better. Ooh, no way. She can't play with me. But what are you talking about? Why? Because I'm gonna play with Beatrice, of course. So I can't play with Angie. Play with Beatrice? You mean you're gonna go off on your own and gonna mumble to yourself and read some book? Ooh, Jessica's going there. Jessica slightly regretted that she hadn't been more tactful. However, she couldn't wipe away the uncomfortable feeling she got every time Maria talked about Beatrice. And that feeling slipped out through her words. Ooh, I don't do it on my own. Beata was there too. So it's a bit different looking back, knowing that this whole time, well, obviously Maria is being tricked in some way. She really is going and hanging out with Beatrice, in air quotes. But what does that really mean yet? We don't really quite know. But it is a person in that dress and Beatrice outfit. Maria may be young, but she does know how to read a person's tone. She immediately burst out in anger, drawing the attention of everyone in the room. Normally, Rosa would have stopped her at this point. However, she happened to have gone to the bathroom at that moment, so there was no one to calm Maria down. Hee hee hee. Poor Jessica, you're just a clump of the toxin. With Beato's weak magical power now, she'd burn to a crisp if she ever appeared in front of you. But she will appear before you eventually. Yes, in front of everyone else too. Hee hee hee. And then the door to the Golden Land will open. But who knows if you'll be invited in. Of course, she will take me there to the Golden Land. But not Jessica. Not Jessica! Ook, not Jessica. Not someone who makes fun of Beatrice. Not an unenlightened, stupid, confused, filthy, toxin-stained human! Hee. Splendid. When someone makes fun of Beatrice, it's like Maria becomes a totally different person. There was a theory about Maria having multiple personalities, wasn't there? Multiple personalities. Yeah, that probably describes it perfectly. Maybe that was Maria's idea of an ideal personality. You mean that thing about creating another self the way you want to be? Huh? How'd you know my motto? Don't think too hard on it. You'll just get a headache. Alright, well. It was something Jessica once told Cannon. She had been talking about how anyone can create another self in the image of the person they want to be. I think we heard those words somewhere near the beginning of the second game. Now that I think about it, some very interesting stuff's been mentioned since very early on. We're seeing a lot of concepts. Maybe start joining together those concepts. The concept of making someone else accept who you are. We got multiple personalities. We have some people who acknowledge Beatrice. Goat is not on that list. I'm kidding. Everyone has a self they really want to become, but they can't do it. Their current self is always surrounded by their lifestyle and the limits placed on them. I'll say it in red. Goda is not Beatrice. There. I've heard enough of the Goda Beatrice memes. I like them. Don't get me wrong. I love them. They're a bit overdone, but I appreciate the commitment to the jest. Their current self is always surrounded by their lifestyle and the limits placed on them, so they have no way of changing themselves. True. Changing yourself means changing your environment as well. That's not easy to do. So my idea was to leave who I am now alone. I'd create another self, one that I really wanted to be. You felt suffocated, forced to live the life of a rich family's daughter, and you envisioned the self that you wanted to be. But I couldn't do anything outlandish at home, of course. Mom would just start yelling at me. So I made my plan. At home, I'd obediently do what my parents said, but I'd also create a second self to do what I wanted. At home, you did everything your parents told you to, and outside, you did what you wanted. That's a good way to live. You should be proud. Thanks. And well, if there's something you really want to be, and if you really work for it, it's easier to do than you'd think. I figured Mario was pretty much the same. You think Mario is doing the same thing when she gets excited and starts talking and talking? Sometimes I think that's the person Mario really wants to be. As the youngest member of the family, she's adored, but not respected. Every time she learns something, there's always someone in the family who already knows it. She doesn't get to show off her knowledge about anything. Whenever she does learn something new, we try to smile and praise her, but that might actually have hurt her. So Mario wanted to become an authority on something. Something that all young boys and girls think when they want to shake off their childhood. It's not a bad feeling when you learn something new and your parents praise you, but when you realize that your parents already knew that thing, it sometimes feels like they're talking down to you. When a kid learns their one-digit times table, their parents will probably praise them. However, inconsiderate parents will sometimes ask mean questions, like, then what's 11 times 11, or what's 16 times 16, or something similar. If that happens, the kid will lose his feeling of accomplishment, and will start to feel as though he could never surpass his parents. So it's easy to guess when Mario got interested in the occult, something else no one knew about, and started learning more and more about it. I think the person Mario wants to be is an authority in the occult who everyone respects. And if she talked about the occult during her everyday life, Rosa would hit her. So like you, she's been hiding this other self most of the time. That's what I think she's doing at times like this. Maybe I should say that this is her real self slipping through the cracks to cover up her normal self. Actually, I've had some experience with that myself. I've thought at times that it'd be nice to become a frail, secluded lady, so I'd pretend to cough a lot, and it sort of became a bad habit. Because everyone would be nice to you if you started having coughing fits? No. Whenever the conversation turned to something I didn't like, or something that made me feel uncomfortable, I could do that to change the subject. I see. That's another self you wanted to become. I'd appreciate it if you didn't tell anyone about that. Then, just what is Mario's other self? That's not a full admittance that she doesn't actually have asthma, but it implies maybe she doesn't actually have asthma, or at least she uses the fact that she has asthma to her advantage sometimes. An authority on the occult who can out-argue even adults? Or else, does it have to do with her relationship with the witches? Either way, denying Beatrice in front of Mario is clearly taboo. In her search for something more than her everyday life, Mario found it in Beatrice and inside herself. In that case, is going to the Golden Land with Beatrice Mario's wish? Looks like we've gone off track. Anyway, Mario kept up that tantrum until Aunt Rosa got back. I should have let her be, but I fought back. You said there was no way Beatrice could exist. Something like that. If she exists, then just let me see her. Of course, once Mara started crying, I realized I'd gone too far. And then? At the end of the family conference, I was the only one still upset. Mara acted as though nothing had happened. Instead, she went off somewhere on her own and came back talking happily about how she'd played with Beatrice again. Everyone, me included, decided not to contradict her. By that time, it was best to just accept it and ignore it. Is that all you have to say about the family conference? About the conference, yes. What I want to talk about is what happened after the conference was over and everyone left. Even after the conference ended, I still felt a bit uncomfortable. If Mari had just stayed mad, we would have made up with each other and I could have put it all behind me. But since Mari got over it, it felt like I was the only one unsatisfied. Oh, my lady. Why the gloomy face? Oh, it's you. It's nothing important. Did everyone make it back okay? If they're still on schedule, they should have reached the Nijima airport by now. You've done your part well, my lady. I haven't done anything. It's you servants who have done a great job. Are you still upset by that fight you had with Maria-sama yesterday? Sorta. She's just a kid, right? It's not something you need to worry about. All grown up and in high school. Do you think all that was just a kid's nonsense? You mean about Beatrice-sama? See, even you call her Sama. Remember, apparently the other servants, including Kabusawa, so the servants excluding Goda that were there on that day, had met with Beatrice. The same Beatrice that Marius met with. Beatrice is the name of grandfather's mistress, the person he's still infatuated with. I realize that. As a servant, Kumasawa-san can't speak of her indiscreetly. Still, that's now become the name of the fictitious witch who lives in this mansion. And it's almost natural for people to call her Sama. Beatrice is just a ghost story created by the adults to stop us from wandering into the forest. Maria just thought it was interesting one day and decided to act like it was true. Ho ho ho. If you say such things, you'll end up regretting it. After all, Beatrice-sama exists. Again, when you say stuff like that, you're just freaking me out. I may not be George Nissan, but I'm not going to go around shouting that Santa couldn't possibly exist. But that doesn't mean he actually exists. You'll find you're wrong there, my lady. Wrong? Oh yes, the gods dwell in all things. In the same way, Beatrice-sama dwells in this mansion. Like the gods, Beatrice-sama will do you no harm if you respect her. As you say, it will be as though she doesn't exist. However, if you ever fail to show proper respect, her curse will descend upon you. Of course, this doesn't apply only to Beatrice-sama. Heh, there's a curse and let's see it. I just love to meet her. My lady, you mustn't say such things. Perhaps Beatrice is listening. Oh, there's the curse, it's raining. Ah, my lady. You did a fine job today. Shannon, Goda-san, you guys know about Beatrice, right? Huh? Well, I do know of her, of course. Why do you ask? The two looked at each other. They looked like a pair who had just heard a clueless person suddenly utter a forbidden word. This is like the episode of Arthur where DW learns about swears. Hey mom, what does beep mean? Let's have it straight. Does she exist? The ghost? If it's a question of whether she exists or not, I would have to say that she doesn't, probably. I'm sure she exists. Why? Have you ever met her? I've never met her directly, but... Shannon spoke in detail of how she'd sometimes feel a strange presence, or see a silhouette while doing the midnight rounds. Well, Mario said that Shannon had met her, but maybe not at this point in time, I guess. That could be. Each time she started, Jessica would immediately cut her off, saying she must have seen it wrong or been mistaken. You haven't met her either, right, Goda-san? Of course not. However, well, he was being very evasive. Even a man as big as Goda was apparently unable to deny the existence of someone he never met. This really didn't sit well with Jessica. She was a resident of this mansion herself. They were acting as though someone she didn't know, was living here. Of course she didn't like it. Wait a sec. Tell me that story one more time. Hmm? Which do you mean? The story about the VIP room? Koro and Shannon had been recounting several ghost stories about Beatrice. One of those drew a reaction from Jessica. Yeah, that one. Sounds pretty cool. Koro and Shannon glanced at each other. After all, it hadn't been a cool story to either of them. You mean, you must enter the VIP room at 2 in the morning? The one about how Beatrice somehow returns to the VIP room every morning at 2, so you mustn't go near it? Yeah, that's it. Pretty cool. All the other stories about people saying they heard or saw something Beatrice like, but this one isn't. This one says that if you go to the VIP room at 2, you can actually meet Beatrice sama. But, well, I wonder. My lady, they say that servants who speak ill of Beatrice sama are cursed. Furthermore, the VIP room is Beatrice sama's room. Even you, my lady, should probably reconsider. The VIP room is locked now, right? Where's the key? Was that key in the key box? I think Genji-sama keeps the key by his own chair. The master key can unlock it too, right? Let me borrow yours. But I cannot do that. My lady, there's no need to approach such an ill-omened place without reason. Hey, don't you go calling my house ill-omened. Anyway, I've made up my mind. If you can't give me your master key, there's still that key for the VIP room, right? Let me borrow it. My lady. To Jessica, the expressions worn by the pair felt more like an ill omen than anything else did. In Jessica's eyes, the ill omen thing wasn't the witch of the VIP room. It was them, Mari and the others who believed in witches. In the end, Jessica forced them to agree, and she made them bring her the key to the VIP room. So he went on a classic test of courage to see if Beatrice would really appear in the VIP room or not. Pretty much. Still, I wonder why I was so fixated on doing it. I must still have been brooding over that fight I had with little Maria. I mean, Jessica's still young enough, you know. Sometimes this kind of whim just takes you over. Of course, the weather just had to be terrible on that particular night. To be honest, I slightly regretted sticking my nose into something so pointless. But I had already said so much, and even borrowed the key from them. I couldn't just go to Shanna the next day, have her ask me how it went, and answer, well, I gave up, because it was too scary. Normally, I go to sleep long before 2 AM. If Mom found me wandering the corridors at that time of night, she'd definitely yell at me. So I waited in my room, staring at the hands of my clock as it ticked closer to 2 AM. Outside, the rain was incredible and the wind strong. The swaying, rustling trees were particularly eerie. I'd complained to Shannon and Goda about making up ghost stories about my house, but I was starting to feel like those ghost stories might not be so impossible after all. The Ushimina mansion is huge. Honestly, I can't think of the entire mansion as my own house. As Mom says, the hallways of the Ushimina mansion should be treated like public roads. In other words, my own room is part of my home, but the hallways and rooms I don't usually enter are outside. I guess it makes sense. I mean, even as a kid, like, I knew there were places I shouldn't enter in my house, really. Don't go into the basement, you know, don't go into the attic. Don't go into, like, the spare room. There's just, like, storage and stuff in there. Don't go into my parents' room unless they're there. Things like that. It's kind of the same. So, while part of me felt that this VIP room ghost story was ridiculous, another part of me was so creeped out that it kept frantically trying to convince itself that the first part of me was right. Only 10 minutes left till 2. I needed to get there before then. Guess it's time. Sorry, but I'm not giving up that easy. Nothing's going to happen. I know that. It'll just be a stupid waste of time for a few minutes. I touched the doorknob to the door of my room, and was startled by how unpleasantly cold it was. As long as I stayed in this room, I could laugh off anything. After all, this was my room. But it wouldn't be like that in the hallway. That's outside my territory. And the doorknob, the barrier between the two, is ice cold. Idiot. What are you so scared of, me? You aren't taking Shannon's, Goda-san's, or maybe Kumasawa-san's gossip seriously, are you? I'll prove it. There's nothing strange in the VIP room. The corridor was only dimly lit. 4 lights outside, the hallways were brighter. But to avoid wasting energy, or something like that, we kept the lights to a minimum at night. So even though I was inside my own house, it was very clearly the middle of the night here. If Mom found out that I was wandering around at a time like this to do a test of courage in the VIP room, which I'm not even supposed to go in, I'd get in a lot of trouble. To make sure she didn't find out, I tried to hide my breathing and my footsteps. So the silence felt unbelievably loud. I don't really know what the room layout is like. I wonder Is Jessica's room, like, adjacent to her parents? Or, like, really close to it? Or are they, like, on the other side of the mansion, like, hallways away? We don't ever really get that kind of layout, I don't think. I'm curious, though. Big houses like mansions are cool. I wish I could just, like, become a ghost and just, like, zoom around and just, like, go through doors and check stuff out. It'd be cool. But it only has an appeal in real life. Like, exploring in a video game or something just doesn't really have, like, the same appeal. You know, it's like a space made for you to be explored. I think there's a real charm in being able to look around somewhere that isn't really made for you to look around and like that. I know I sound like a creepy person. I want to go walking around people's houses. But think about it. It'd be cool. You don't just go anywhere. The sound of twigs rustling. The sound of some pillar in this old mansion creaking. What's that sound like a beak tapping against glass? Though it was so quiet, all the little suspicious sounds made it seem noisy. Damn, I'm an idiot. Why couldn't I have brought a flashlight at least? A flashlight to use inside my own home? That's even more idiotic. I mumbled this to myself, hoping it would drown out the sound of the wind just a little. Then I saw it. The door to the VIP room. This was the VIP room, the room for important guests. However, as far as I knew, it had never been used before. None of the guests who came to this mansion were important enough to be given use of this room. Though I'd been clutching that key the whole time, it didn't feel warm at all. It still ruthlessly and icily tormented me. Maybe that was a warning. If you go back to your comfortable room and hide in your bed, this night will pass like any other. Don't mess with me. I can't give up after coming this far. Even though the key was freezing in my hand, telling me to go back, it slipped into the keyhole quite easily. All that's left is to turn the knob, open it, and it'll be inside the VIP room. It's not like I've never been in there before. Long ago, I'd explored and played hide-and-seek all the time. And this room that I rarely entered seemed unusual and exciting. However, I got in trouble for going in, and was told that this room was important, so one mustn't enter without reason. How'd you even get the key? Oh, well, here we go, never mind. Answered my own question. Well, the game answered it for me, rather. After that, they made a rule of locking up unused rooms, and I couldn't go in anymore. So it's probably been several years since I've gone into the VIP room. In fact, it might be more than 10 years since the last time. The inside of the room has probably changed from how I remember it. Come to think of it, even then, I felt like there was something unsettling about it. Slowly, I pushed the door open. The door was light, and even after I let go of it, it kept opening by itself as though beckoning me in. Beyond it was a darkness as thick and heavy as ink. Even the dim light that peeked in from the corridor seemed bright in contrast. Gulp. Gulp. I stuck my head in, feeling about for the light switch next to the doorway. This was a horribly awkward and uncomfortable way to do it. All I really had to do was step inside and search for the switch from there. Unwilling to take even a single step into the room, I timidly stuck just my arm into the darkness and felt along the wall. There. The switch, which was hardly ever used, felt stiff and lifeless. However, once the light turned on, the darkness vanished in an instant. And there, exactly as it had been, as though not a thing had changed in all these years, was the VIP room. The curtain and bed cover might have been slightly different, and maybe the chairs and the light had changed too. Still, if I had to put it in words, I'd call it the feel. The stiff, lifeless feel of this room hadn't changed. If I hang around here, someone might find me. I'd rather not have Mom find me here. I readied myself. And though I couldn't even bring myself to enter this room when the lights were out, I finally entered. As soon as I closed the door, I felt an oppressive, suffocating sensation. Alright, I've shut myself up in the VIP room. Bring it, Beatrice. What time is it now? I looked around the room, but I couldn't see any clock. I'm not in the habit of wearing a watch around the house. Damn. Now I'm not sure what time it is. Still, I know there's only a few minutes left at most. I tried to suppress my desire to use going to get a clock as an excuse to run away from this place. Even so, just standing around like this was boring. When I looked around again, searching for something to sit on, I found something strange. What's this? Creepy doll. It had been placed on the side table next to the bed. If this room had been used often, I'd have thought it was just one of the owner's personal belongings. But no one lived in this room, so this can't belong to the room's owner. What is this, an offering or something? Creepy. It really did look like an offering. A small French doll was sitting at the side table. The doll's hair was gold. It was wearing a black dress. Just who managed to find this doll and where? There's no doubt that someone placed the doll here to symbolize Beatrice. Does that mean this doll is supposed to be the owner of the room or something? And, looking like an offering to that owner, there sat a small plate with several cookies and wrapped chocolates. It was all set out neatly, and there was no dust piled up on the doll. In other words, both the doll and the offering were taken care of on a regular basis by the servants, kept in good condition along with the rest of the room. Taken care of? No, it's more than that. It looked like an offering, no, some sort of worship. A prayer saying, "Please don't curse us." So, even though the doll was more than eerie enough by itself, viscerally, it was even more unnerving to imagine it had been kept safe and worshipped in a place like this. Stupid. Am I supposed to clap my hands together and say, "Please don't curse me"? Jessica forced herself to look away from the bizarre doll. She couldn't bring herself to sit on a bed that wasn't hers. Then again, she didn't really feel like sitting down on a chair either. She had lost any desire to sit on anything in this room. Well, get used to standing then. I wandered about aimlessly, then peeked out the window through the gaps in the curtains to stare at the dark, rainy night. What the hell am I doing? Thinking about to be up here this late just because that fight with Maria is still eating at me. This is totally pointless. Beatrice. Just when did that strange witch start living in this mansion? Grandfather's always yelling about Beatrice. Since it's apparently the name of his dead mistress, people started talking about how her ghost must haunt this mansion. There's that kid's horror story about the witch in the forest, which might be a ghost story made by the adults to stop the kids from going in there. The portrait grandfather had hung in April was really striking. There was also that weird epitaph. The creepy words on that, which sounded like some sort of ceremony with human sacrifices, made the name of Beatrice seem all the more unnerving. At some point, those stories mixed together, and now people say that the witch Beatrice exists. I don't believe in Beatrice, because I know she's just a fictional person made by the fusion of a few horror stories. The Beatrice who was grandfather's mistress probably did exist, but she wasn't a witch. True. The story of the Witch of the Forest was made up by the adults to prevent their kids from getting lost in the forest. The woods. But that was just a made-up story, not reality. In fact, I've heard that the adults here once scared the kids with stories about wolves living in the forest. Apparently, the kids realized that wolves couldn't possibly be there, so it was changed to the witch. When the portrait was hung, that once vague character suddenly had a face, and people acted as though she'd been around since long ago. That's right, it's all a ghost story someone made, a fiction. And Moria calls Beatrice her best friend, and the servants worship her like a household shrine. I just don't get it, and it creeps me out. The sudden ring of the phone made me jump so hard I thought my heart would explode. There was a phone on the bedside table across from the one with the doll, and it was ringing noisily. However, I was only surprised by the first ring. By the time it had rung 3 times, I'd regained my cool enough to grumble about this being pranked on by someone trying to scare me. If I rush to pick it up, I'll probably hear someone laughing at me saying, "Were you scared?" I thought about ignoring it instead, but it kept on ringing incessantly. It was a pretty loud sound to have going on and on this late at night. If Mom's home, and manages to hear it from her room, I'm screwed. Okay, I've got it. Might as well say, "You scared me," or whatever. I decided to pick up the receiver. I'll just say, "That surprised me, wahaha." And he followed it up with, "Looks like Beatrice didn't show up after all." After all, this is my victory in a sense. Hello? Ooh. Hi, Beatrice. Huh? Maria? I don't get it. Did I hear that wrong? Why would Maria be calling here? Hello? Thanks for teaching me that fun song last time. In return, I'm gonna sing you a song, Beatrice. I just learned this one. Ooh. The voice, the intonation, the manner of speech, all that clearly belonged to Maria. But what's she talking about, all by herself? Maria just kept on talking happily as I stood there, stunned and unable to interrupt. Eventually, Maria started singing an old familiar kid song that even I knew. I don't get it. Maria? Hello? Wait a sec, stop singing. What's going on? I don't get it. Hello? Ah. The voice and the lights, everything disappeared. In the pitch black, I couldn't see anything, couldn't tell what was happening. I don't get it, what's going on? It's okay, Jessica leaves. What the hell was that? Does being in darkness really slow us humans down so much? I know it's dark, but I really have absolutely no idea what just happened. What was that shuffling sound just now? I'm not sure. I can't explain it. I heard an incredible slithering sound like someone crawling out of a bed. I didn't think I'd heard it. It wasn't that vague. I definitely heard it happen, right next to me, clearly. However, there was no change to the bed. No one had been sleeping there in the first place, and the sheets were still perfectly straight. Someone had crawled out of the bed and laughed in a creepy voice before leaving the room. That's what it felt like. Felt like? I'm here and the bed's right there. I'm not only in the same room, I'm right next to it. So why am I so unsure about what happened just a few seconds ago? I gripped the receiver, which had gone completely silent, and waited there alone, unable to move, in a quiet room that seemed exactly identical to the one I'd entered. Huh? What? If nothing's changed since the beginning, I can just pretend that the last minute or so didn't happen. And yet, if something has changed, that would prove that something really did happen. The hell? Well, where'd it go? Did it fall to the floor? No, it's not there. No matter where I look, from whatever angle, it's not there. The offering plate with the cookies and chocolates is still here. But the thing they were being offered to, the doll, is gone. No way. Then what just happened? Is the Beatrice Summer doll supposed to have cackled out loud and left the room? No, that crawling sound was too loud to have been made by a doll. It was a noisy sort of sound, like a kid playing with a blanket using as a cape. Then what? Is that Beatrice Summer doll supposed to have turned into a human, and then run cackling from the room? No way. Usoda. After that, nothing happened. The doll alone disappeared, and nothing else changed. In a VIP room that had remained completely unchanged and was filled only with the sound of wind and rain, I stood there, too shocked to move. Did you ever find that doll? I looked everywhere, even under the bed, but I didn't find it. Just what did you think had happened in that room? I don't think it was actually Beatrice Summer's curse. It might have been a prank done by the servants. A prank? Maybe they recorded Maria's voice beforehand. They then called exactly 2 and pushed the play button. They could have cut the power at the switchboard or something. Then, someone who'd been hiding in the VIP room would make a creepy laugh, take the doll, and leave. If that's how it happened, everything fits. Doesn't sound like you're really convinced. No kidding. After all, if that was just a prank to scare me, the scare was way too large. They made Moria sing beforehand and recorded it. Then someone called the VIP room and replayed that recording. Then someone waited until exactly the right time and tripped the breaker for the VIP room. To turn off the power to the VIP room, you'd have to go to the basement. There's a switchboard booth down at the boiler room. There's no phone line down there, so you'd need a different person to play back Maria's tape. And you need another person to hide in the VIP room and cackle before leaving. Just how long would this last person have to hide in the VIP room beforehand? How long would they have to hide in the pitch black VIP room, under the bed for example, waiting to scare Jessica, who might or might not even come? There's no way it could be a witch's curse. But still, to me, it's even creepier to imagine that many people planning everything down to the slightest detail, and waiting for several hours in the darkness just to scare me. I agree. A curse would be better. Did you ask the servants about that later on? What's the point? They just played dumb, of course. And there had to have been at least 3 of them. On that day, Genji-san, Goto-kun, Kumasawa-san, and Shannon stayed the night. So 3 of those 4 helped out with that creepy prank. It doesn't make sense. That's why I couldn't ask about it. True, it had been a strange experience for her, but it wasn't something completely impossible for humans to do. Even so, it really must have been more unnerving to imagine a large number of people planning so carefully just to scare Jessica. It's no surprise that Jessica found this scarier than Beatrice's curse. Do you still believe the servants tricked you? No. I was probably scared and mistook what I saw and heard. The doll probably just fell somewhere and I had trouble finding it. Are you trying to say you imagined the whole thing? Other than the doll disappearing, there was no other proof that anything had changed. Later on, I talked to Maria, and she said she didn't know anything about that song on the phone call. I don't know if she was lying or not, of course. Anyway, what happened that night is just something I thought happened, and there's no proof of any kind. That's ironic. Even if you claimed to have met Beatrice directly, you would have been just as unable to prove it. The shock lasted for a while, but as time passed, I began to think that lightning or something must have shut off the power for a second. And maybe one of the trees in the garden fell, which I mistook for that slithering sound. And the laugh? Maybe some strange bird. Anyway, I might have misheard something to get that sound. I act tough, but you wouldn't believe how much of a coward I actually am. That's why I let my imagination get a hold of me. I tried to use that as an excuse to help me forget everything that happened that night. And everything is enshrouded in darkness. People are actually pretty good at forgetting things if they try. After that night, I feel uncomfortable every time I heard the word Beatrice, but I tried hard to not let it show in my face. That's all. I can't tell you any more than that. Theater going complete. It's kinda embarrassing, so please don't tell anyone. I don't want them knowing I'm a chicken. Sure thing. I have one last question. About the VIP room? No. About the dining hall. The dining hall? On the day of the family conference, just before your ghost story, all the relatives were gathered in the dining hall, right? Yeah. Except Outward hadn't come back to the family yet. Everyone else was there. Everyone except Grandfather, of course. And Angie wasn't in the room because of her stomachache. Her seat was next to yours, wasn't it? Yep. Was that the seat to your right? Yeah, the seat to my right. Why does it matter? Wait. That's strange. Why to the... That's enough. Try not to think. You'll just get a headache. Becoming his line. He's saying that the seat arrangement doesn't line up for whatever reason. There's something strange about it. But that's a bit difficult for like a reader to really grasp without having the info in front of them. I think it'll probably come up later in detail, so just be patient. What's up, Jessica? Why the confused look? Well, right, left. Oh, you're so weird. How's it going, Will? Have George, Nissan, and Jessica told you anything useful? A bit. That ghost story about Beatrice was pretty fun. A ghost story? What kind of story? The one about Beatrice's ghost appearing in the VIP room at 2 in the morning. It was pretty creepy. I've never heard of that. I don't know who put that out there, but that'd be really rude making up ghost stories about the woman our head is indebted to. A model answer. What? Do you know about the epitaph, Leon? Epitaph? What epitaph? That epitaph by Beatrice's portrait. My apologies, but I have no idea what you mean. Behold the Sweetfish River running through my beloved hometown. What on earth are you talking about? So in your world, no, in this world, the portrait exists, but not the epitaph. Of course, I know about the large portrait of Beatrice hanging in the entrance hall, but I haven't heard of this epitaph. What is it? That's a very interesting difference. You've lived in Arkanjima all your life, right? Of course. What's your point? When you were a little kid, you were told not to go near the woods. Threatened about it. Yes. They always said to stay away since it would be dangerous if we got lost. Because a witch lives in the forest? Witch? What witch? The Golden Witch, ruler of Arkanjima's night. Beatrice. Beatrice is a woman to whom grandfather owes a great debt. Don't you think it's a bit rude to treat her like a witch or a ghost? You don't know about the witch Beatrice? I know about the Beatrice who came in her submarine along with the gold, and about her daughter who was raised in the hidden mansion. We just learned about those two together a short while ago, right? Where does the witch come in? I see, so that's it. Then how did they scare you to keep you from going into the woods? They said that wolves lived in the forest. Wolves, but not a witch. I see. That's interesting. Not to me. What are you talking about? What is this witch? I'm just talking to myself. I have one more question. Please, go ahead. During the family conference, who sits to your right at the dining table? My little sister, Jessica, sits across from me. The next in rank is Aunt Ava's son. So George Nissan is the one on my right. What's your point? I get it. It's all mashed together in a confusing mess. But it is interesting. Well, I'm still in the dark here. Okay, Will. Sure with the class? No? No, probably not. Let's see what's up next. I might stop soon. Short stream to get back into the swing of things. Because I know there are a couple, like, really good, decently long scenes in here. Hold on, I'll go a little bit longer. Let's see what's next. So, did you figure out who killed Beatrice? Yeah. More or less. I feel bad stopping. Okay, I'll keep going. You don't mean the head, do you? Brent Castell wasn't asking about the two Beatrices involved with Kinzo. She's talking about who killed the Beatrice of 1986. I'm not really sure what you mean by the Beatrice of this year. What's all this about a witch called Beatrice? And then there's what we were just talking about in that epitaph, too. Isn't it about time you explained all this to me? Alright. No point stringing you along. Let's start from the beginning. Who is this witch Beatrice? Strictly speaking, it isn't a person. It's the concept known as Beatrice the Golden Witch. You mean the ghost stories themselves? To be more specific, even the ghost stories are only one of the elements that create the concept. You've lost me. Ghost stories are normally told in the second person or third person. However, someone started telling those in the first person. You mean someone started claiming that they were Beatrice? The legend of Rakenji was evil spirits, and they made up a story for keeping kids out of the forest. These were combined with Kinzo's constant cries of Beatrice, Beatrice, and gradually became the legend of the witch. Ushimi Amaria became entranced by that fictional witch and begged for a chance to meet her. And then, someone answered her call. I'm still not following, but I'll just nod and tell you to keep going. What do you mean by answered her call? Because of Ushimi Amaria's unfortunate childhood history, she became obsessed with the occult. Someone felt sympathy for her, acted the part of Beatrice, and played with her. Amaria tends to recognize people by their behavior rather than their physical appearance. Though Rosa is only one person, Maria calls her mother the Black Witch when she gets violent. And at these times, Maria views Rosa as a different person, separate from her mother. In other words, even when the person visually looks the same, she tends to view them as multiple different people depending on their attitude. This fact puts the scene where Maria first met Beatrice in a new light. After being chased out of the mansion by the adults, Maria decided to have some tea in the rose garden. At that time, someone probably started talking to Maria. Then, when they heard this occult living girl talking happily about how she wanted to beat the witch Beatrice, this person acted as though Beatrice was possessing them. On the outside, they didn't look like Beatrice. However, when their manner of speech and behavior changed abruptly, Maria would recognize them as a different person. That's why her appearance was so sudden. We can probably view Maria's love of witches and the occult as a form of escapism. She believed the power of witches could bring about change in her unfulfilling and incomplete life. That's why she wanted to believe that witches exist. She thought that believing could make her happy. It's true that Aunt Rosa brought up Maria by herself, and that she was always busy with work. I do feel sorry for Maria, but still, don't neglect the heart. Maria believed for the sake of believing. She believed in Beatrice's conjuring trick from the bottom of her heart. That probably comforted her a lot. And at that moment, the witch Beatrice was born. Someone saw that Maria-chan wanted to meet a witch, so they decided to play witches with her? That's right. This marks the birth of Beato the Elder. All of that about living 1,000 years and being bound to Rakenjima, that was mixed into the story of ghosts wandering the mansion at night, which was part of the legend of Rakenjima's evil spirits. As Furuta Erika guessed, the two ghost stories had fused. Someone fused the two stories together and acted the part. So Beatrice held traits from both ghost stories. She was the master of the mansion's night, while also fearing spiderwebs. So when Bernkisto asks us who killed Beatrice, she means who killed the kind person who acted the part of Beatrice? That's close, but not quite. She doesn't mean someone acting a part. We're talking about two different people. Just like how in Maria's eyes, her mother and the Black Witch are different, separate people. Beatrice and the person who played that part are also different people. It was just like marriage sorcery. One person would be the creator, and the other would acknowledge those creations, thereby nurturing the illusion. The Golden Witch Beatrice was also created by one person, and then nurtured when Maria acknowledged her. So killing the role that was being acted out wouldn't mean the same thing as killing the kind person who was playing the part? Even if Beatrice's vessel is lost, that isn't the same as Beatrice being killed. It's easier to understand if we use a telephone as an example. Let's say I call you on the phone. From my perspective during the call, the phone is you. I did have a big puff of hair in my face. In the sense that it's what I talk to. But what if I break the phone? I see. If you kill the phone, you won't be able to talk to me, but that doesn't mean you've killed me. We know Maria once offered to let Beatrice possess her early on in the relationship. That clearly shows that Beatrice didn't look like the portrait at that time. So if the person acting the part of the witch character they play are different people, we're talking about killing just the witch character itself. Is that even possible? Only the actor can kill the character. In other words, the person who killed Beatrice is the person who played the part of Beatrice. You mean that the person who played witches with Maria-chan is the culprit Pinkus was talking about? That's it. But as if that wasn't confusing enough, this chapel is now a world inside a cat box. The culprit is the cat. There are now two cats existing at the same time. One alive and one dead. Confusing is right. I'm still lost, but keep going. You're saying that there are two culprits? Right. The human who can create and kill Beatrice, and the human who never gave birth to Beatrice in the first place, who can kill the entire concept of Beatrice. Both of those humans are here. Let me ask, this Beatrice murder case, who are the two culprits? Let's start with the dead cat. Who is it? You. What? It's painfully easy to guess. Your world is the only one where which Beatrice doesn't exist. I don't understand. Both Maria and Jessica told me stories about the witch Beatrice. However, when they talked about the ranking system at the dining hall, you weren't there. I wasn't there? Maria came to visit Arkanjima with Rosa, and Rosa was sitting next to her. That's impossible. If you exist, then Leon comes after Rosa, then Jessica, then Maria. There should be two people between Rosa and Maria in rank. In that case, they should be sitting on opposite sides of the table and separated by one seat. Remember, because it goes like left, right, we go down one, left, right, we go down one, left, right. In other words, in the world where Leon exists, it's impossible for Maria to be sitting next to Rosa. It was the same in Jessica's story. If you were added to the ranking system, then when looking down the table towards Kinzo's seat, you should be on the left side and Jessica should be on the right. After that comes George on the left side and Angie on the right. Jessica and Angie will be sitting next to each other whether you're there or not. However, which side of the table they're sitting on changes. In the world where Leon exists, Angie's seat is on Jessica's left. However, if Leon doesn't exist, then Angie's seat is on Jessica's right. Every time someone talked about the witch Beatrice of 1986, they were all talking about a world where you don't exist. And in your world, there are no ghost stories about a witch. To you, Beatrice is either Kinzo's mistress or his benefactor, not a wandering ghost. The head loved Beatrice deeply, did he not? I can't imagine why she would be made into a ghost story. Exactly. If you exist, the witch Beatrice doesn't. Your existence kills Beatrice. Are you saying I'm the culprit who killed Beatrice? That's just crazy. How can I be the culprit if I don't even understand her and have never met her? Flip it around. If you don't exist, Beatrice will be born. Flip it. Are you trying to say Beatrice and I are two sides of a coin? That's a good way to put it. That's it exactly. You're a coin and Beatrice is on the other side. I don't get it at all. At first, I didn't get your existence either. But I formed a theory about you after hearing all this. The key is that you're 19 years old. I don't remember telling you my age, but you got it right. How? Jessica said you were already the student council vice president when she joined your school, and that you became the president the next year. That means you're 1 year older than Jessica. Jessica's 18 years old, so Leon must be 19. I see. And what sort of theory can you make now that you know I'm 19? The theory I can make is that you aren't Ushirimiya Natsui's child. How rude. I don't know what game you're playing, but I won't allow you to insult both me and my mother like that. Why are you the successor instead of Kraus? I will succeed the headship when I come of age. When I have a kid, I'll probably pass the title down to them when they come of age. Then why didn't Kinzo give the headship to Kraus when he came of age? You heard what our head said. He was used by the cunning elders of the Ushimura family and suffered much. That's why I decided that only young people should inherit the headship from now. In the world without you in it, there is no silver ring for the successor. That silver ring proves that Kinzo had a strong desire, which he didn't show in any other world, to see that you became the next head. I can't deny that you may have a point there. The head always seemed to adore me particularly. And I was very young when he first promised to make me the head when I came of age. He was very strict when he told me to keep up in my studies in preparation for that day. If you've been paying close attention to the story, you should know exactly who Leon is. But I don't think my father was any less talented. Why did grandfather skip over him and make me the successor? I thought it strange from time to time, but since it's always been that way, I never said so aloud. you know why Kinzo wanted you and not Kraus to become the next head? John Umineko. No, Jane Umineko. How could I know? Are you trying to tell me to stop neglecting the heart again? Do you think you understand how the head's heart works? It's because you're the child of Kinzo and Beatrice. Hooray! You got it! Well done. There was a crisp applause and a mocking laugh. Friend Kistel. That was faster than I expected. I thought you'd let me play a bit longer. Friend Kistel appeared sitting on the altar, almost as though it had become her own personal chair. When did you realize that Leon shared Beatrice's blood? As soon as I realized that Leon was 19. It was the same number as the baby from 19 years ago, the hint that appeared in the 5th game. See? See? Hold on, I want to check something on the Umineko wiki, I just need to look at like a summary of episode 7. Just so I don't accidentally go past a certain point right now. Let me just check here. Chiru, Requiem. Sorry, I just need to see where I am here. Oh. Yeah. This is probably a pretty good place to stop, honestly. Because I'm very afraid that I'll accidentally get into the next section, which I really don't want to do. But it's good to be sure that at least one section I was thinking of doesn't come up until way, way later, but we're gonna meet a new character in like 10 minutes. Maybe around then. So it's probably a good place to stop. Yeah, okay, I wasn't sure if this came about until episode 7 or 8. It's been a while. But I don't want to go into like the scene. And I'm not sure if this is part 1, 2, 3, or 4 of the scene because I don't know the songs. This is probably part 3. But either way, I think that'll be a good place. Have we seen what Leon looks like in the new art? The not so good pachinko art. Will. She actually looks okay. Better than some of the characters do, that's for sure. But like you can see more of her, like in the original. You can see the boots. You don't get to see the boots otherwise. Can we go admire how short Will probably is? The old art is so charming. It is just so, so good. Alright, short stream, but I'll try to be back someday soon. I know you hear that from me a lot, but hopefully I won't catch a cold tomorrow. That would be pretty cool. Yeah.